Welcome to this very special episode of Listen to This Bull Live. This is the show that we talk about bullshit in the insurance industry. And I've got us going live for the first time on TikTok at the same time, which is kind of crazy. Wow. Right?
That's pretty amazing.
On every possible platform available, we've got exactly one viewer at the moment. So
it was a little last notice, the last minute.
A little bit. So I got Josh. Gless.
Yeah, it's just like bless, except the G instead of the B.
In case you were blessed. No, you weren't blessed. You were just blessed. God bless you.
Yeah, right.
You know, that could actually be a lot of fun. You should mess with that a little bit. But so Josh works for iRoofing. If you don't know anything about iRoofing, it's actually a very unique platform that seems to do very well about certain things. Are you about to go live on something too?
Yeah,
you might as well. This platform does a lot of different things. It's what most people know is it makes estimates. It creates roof sketches, and you can measure out the roof sketch using satellite imagery. But one of the coolest features on there, and one that they don't really tell you enough about, is the ability, and this is important for public adjusters, I think, the ability for you to take the image from satellite image and download older aircraft imagery of that same location so that you can see prior existing damages. The insurance carrier is definitely going to get photos like that. So if you have the ability to get that inside of the same app that you were creating your roof sketching and estimate on, I mean, why wouldn't you do that, right? Why wouldn't you indeed? Back this up so far back. Cool. Yeah. And we're all set here. Nice. That actually looks really cool. I like that thing.
Yeah, it's the best.
That thing's pretty cool. All right. So Josh and I have been down in, well, right now we're in Cape Coral, Florida. Can you guys hear us okay? What's up, Javier? Is the audio okay? We don't have all my equipment that I normally have, so hopefully it's fine. We're going to talk about Florida shit and how to deal with some of the inspections in Florida that you don't normally deal with, and possibly, you know, some of the things that we've discovered that contractors, public adjusters, and people don't really know that they should be doing for some of these losses. And we're going to drink beer and we're going to relax because it's been a long day. Thank you, Christian. Yeah, sup. Sounds good. Yeah. And then let's tell the story though. First, we met up right after the hurricane, and you were my hero.
I appreciate that.
Literally.
How long were you guys stuck there?
So let me. The audience probably doesn't know, but I was in the storm with TJ McCormick. We were broadcasting live. A lot of you guys that are watching this might have watched some of that. It's really stupid, by the way, for all of you that are watching us live right now, and there really isn't very many of you, but for anybody that is watching us live, what is wrong with you? All right. There was more people watching me and TJ McCormick drive into a friggin' hurricane than actual weather people that know what they're talking about. They can give you good, actionable advice on what you should do. Instead, you were watching two idiots in a car going into a hurricane. That's how much of an idiot we are. Granted, there's entertainment value. I'll give you that. But still, what's wrong with society? They're watching me. Anyway, so we're out there and we couldn't get any gas in the area. And it was a lot further south than it was supposed to be. We went out there, we had a certain amount of gas. We knew we were going to have a certain amount of gas. And we were planning ahead for being out in, what is that town that's up there?
Tampa?
Tampa. It was supposed to originally go to Tampa. So we hung out in Tampa, ready for the eye to hit us. And it didn't go to Tampa. So now we had to go south an hour just to get to, Port Charlotte area, which is where we rode out the storm. But there was no gas in between Tampa and Port Charlotte. So we couldn't restock what we ended up using just to get down there. And then we had to get back to Tampa that night. It didn't happen. We got about halfway back to Tampa. and ran out of gas, pulled off, and slept in the van, which we were going to do anyway. We had hammocks and everything in the van ready to go. But then this angel of a man who's sitting next to me says, "Hey, I'll drive from Miami with gas and bring it to you overnight for no reason at all. Because I'm dumb, I guess. I don't know why he would do that, but
yeah, I mean, it's just people in need. Not only that, but like I heard that people were up on top of the roofs and they they needed help as well. So I packed up a lot of different gear as well so that that we could actually help out. And if there was anybody that was there, so I tried to always just early on. I mean, I'm glad that iRoofing actually gives me the ability to be able to do this and stuff as well. But
yeah,
but like my grandparents and my parents, I mean, they taught me great lessons growing up is when there's people in need, you don't you need to act, not just sit back and watch things occur. You just need to take action and go after it. So. I was actually happy to go out there because, seeing the storm and the damage, that same day. I mean, even when I was driving there, on the roads and everything, I mean, there was like trees in the middle of the roads that, had to duck it out of the way and everything. So
I'm sure it took you a lot longer to get there than normally would have.
Yeah, and there's this little clip I actually have on my TikTok where there's like this little spinning ball thing that was like kind of coming in and it was just all of a sudden like disappeared. So
really?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of crazy things, but I mean, it was great to just kind of get out and make sure that I can actually get out there and help people.
I got No Bull Roofing over here watching, which is, I feel like I should get some royalties for your, for the name of your company. I mean, just a little bit, but it is a cool ass name. Good for you guys. So now you threw your daughter in the car and then didn't sleep that night at all just to bring two idiots gas that ran into a hurricane. And probably could have gotten gas some other way from someone local the next day, but you were coming down anyway. I'm not going to stop thanking you for that. It was really cool of you. So then Josh and I and TJ were handing out waters to different communities, and TJ and I were able to do quite a bit of that. But we didn't hold a candle to this dude. This dude is very selfless, and I'm going to stop getting real gay here for a second. Just give me a few more moments of gayness. This dude really helped out a lot of people. It was kind of an inspiration to me. So, if there is any kind of a hurricane hero kind of an award later on for anything, that's the guy. Like, seriously.
No, man. No, I mean, it's easy. I mean, it's just, just a matter of, helping out the community and stuff like that as well. And that's, what I try to teach my roofing companies and stuff like that as well. It's just, when you're out there, you help out the community, and, in turn, it's going to help you out, and it's just, even right now, I mean, I'm not even selling roofs, I sell software to roofing contractors, and, people are coming to me all the time with roofing leads and saying, hey, can you do my roof? And it's like, if we started kind of banding together in some of these different storms and not just trying to, machine gun it, there would be a lot more out there where we could actually help out and do everything that we can do to move forward.
I mean, there's so much need out there, and there's a benefit to you guys if you come out early after a hurricane, handing out waters, handing out batteries, hand sanitizer, food, oxygen to a lot of the senior citizens that need oxygen. I mean, we are in Florida. It is a retirement community. It's a very large retirement community.
Right. Ice, everything.
And ice. Yeah. There's a lot of food that was given to us actually just because it was not going to make it in their fridges and they didn't have any ice. So people gave us food to give out because it wasn't going to save. But hey, April. And hello, everyone that's on TikTok. If you guys wouldn't mind sharing this live, we're about to get into the kind of things that we're seeing that contractors are failing to do, and people are getting denied coverages as a result. We're going to get into that in just a minute about specifically the hurricanes type stuff that we're missing. We're also going to talk about some of the really cool shit that we saw today getting on a Tesla roof. So there's all kinds of things that we want to start discussing. And if you have any questions, feel free to put a question in the commentary. This is a conversational live show. So the more questions that we get from the audience, the more the audience can drive what it is that we're talking about. We can really get into what you guys need to know. That's the point.
And hey, Austin, I have my TikTok on there as well, just so you guys listening. So if you go to listen, I'll let you put your link on there.
Listen to this bull on TikTok or YouTube or Facebook or my name, Matthew Mulholland, on Facebook. We're live on all those sites. But if you guys could just share the live that you're on, whichever one you're on, that would help us gain a little bit of audience. And really, there's a lot of things we need to go over that contractors and public adjusters specifically really need to hear, because you're missing the mark on a lot of these inspections that you're doing. And if you don't do some of these things, you're not going to do your homeowners any favors. So
yeah, and that last one was a huge surprise. It's just something to watch out for. Because a lot of times there might not be any visible damage, but we'll go from there. But
I'll raise a Yingling too. Javier's raising a whiskey too.
Nice. Butter.
That was supposed to be brother and bro at the same time. It became butter.
That's awesome.
It's the
but just so you guys know, the roof that we actually went out to today, Kelly Roofing actually allowed us to go take a look at one of their customers. And what was crazy about it is at one time, I mean, the house was 8 feet underwater, and so you can actually see the lines of where the water reached to. So yeah, it was very interesting to see how well it held up. Some of the other ones as well. So it was very very well done and installed. So.
It was a little crazy though. So you could see all this debris up to a line at the front door, and it was all the way up probably a foot below the top of the door jamb. And that was the line of debris where you could clearly see water had been that high up. So that's probably like most door jambs are 7 feet. This is probably like 6 feet high, the water line on the front. You go to the right-hand side of that same house, and it looked like the water line was 3 feet lower than that was at the door handle.
Right.
And it was level.
Yeah.
It was really surprising. Now there was wind blowing shit towards the front door, so it might have pushed the water higher up the wall to leave deposits of material a little bit higher up. And it wouldn't have done that on the sidewall. There would have been wind pushing the water, but it wouldn't have had something to splash up against if it was going straight back across it. So yeah, water wave, as opposed to like a sports wave.
Let me get in there.
Right. Diplomatic, whatever. I'm not going to make fun of her anymore. So it was really interesting, but that was a Tesla roof. That was one of 2 Tesla roofs we were going to get on. We didn't get on the second one. I'm really kind of bummed out about it. It started raining on us. I don't know if you guys know this, but Tesla roofs are really slippery. When they're wet, you will die if you stand on those things while wet. And it wasn't that steep of a pitch. It was like a 612, and I was sliding.
Right.
So I was like, hey, Josh, can you hold the ladder? I got to get off this thing.
Yeah, and we got some good drone footage of it as well. So, we'll make sure that we share it as well on, both Matthew's and my, Facebook and some of the other channels. But it was pretty awesome to kind of like see some of the different new technology and what's out there.
Yeah.
And what really holds up, solar in this storm. I've been quite surprised, and I think that you probably shared my same sentiment with that. As far as I thought a lot of these solar panels would have blown off. And you got to remember, there is huge gusts of wind in this storm. So
yeah, there is. So it's really kind of surprising on some of it, but what we saw on that Tesla roof, there's metal panels and then there's glass face panels that actually have the solar in them. And while I'm talking to you, I'm going to actually attempt to get some of the photos to post up on the screen. So those panels that are metal have a cleat kind of built onto the end of them. They fold down, and then the panel below it has a cleat that goes up. So it's like a French cleat system. They lock together. But the glass panels don't have that locking cleat. So you have the metal panel that has the curve sitting on top of the glass, and there's nothing holding it. So we saw a lot of the metal panels that were just around the glass solar panels that had bent up and lifted. And it was surprising, but all of the ones that had lifted on the one roof we got on were lifted just above those solar panels. But there was also quite a bit of damage under the glass that was very difficult to see, but it was under the glass on the solar side, only on the back half of this roof. It wasn't a powered system, and it doesn't look like I have the photos on my phone, so they must be on my DJI. So I'm not going to be able to access them to show you guys right now. It wasn't part of the system wasn't turned on because the whole house batteries, the power walls, they had 2 of them.
Mm-hmm.
They were completely submerged at some point, so they shut them down, which is great.
Wow.
But the right hand side, do you remember there was this electrical meter?
Right.
It had a burn mark just above it.
Right. No, and that burn mark was pretty big. So,
Yeah.
and it's going to get into the conversation about, these homeowners as well as, I mean, a lot of these roofs, they look like they don't have any bit of damage, and I think that there's a lot of people that are probably going around thinking that they didn't really sustain that much damage to the storm. But you got to remember, like, getting into the attic, and checking out what's going on underneath it, because, if you're not going into the attic, I mean, you're doing yourself a disservice. You're doing the customer a disservice as well, because, like when we went into the second house, I mean, it's, like you said, I mean, during the hurricane, it's blowing that water all over the place.
So this ties into April's question she just posted. She says, maybe unrelated because I'm not a contractor, and April is a independent adjuster and IA. But because a lot of people had flood damage but no flood coverage, what's something I can look out for that maybe isn't obvious to the eye and can be attributed to more than just the water in order to get anything I ethically can get added? Most floods had no roof opening, as an example. Well, our second roof had quite a bit to talk about there. Let me get rid of the comment.
Yeah, and for some of you that are listening over on my TikTok, I see that Austin said that's why you need snow grip. The
little panels that stick up, they'll hold the snow from falling off and just crushing people,
right?
And children and cats,
right?
Mostly cats.
But if you guys want to go to listen to this bull on TikTok, he's live as well, and he has it pulled up as well, right in front of him, and he's streaming it live as well from his main page. So the questions and stuff can help go that way a little bit
Yeah. If you guys want to post a question on any platform that you're on, we will be able to see them, and we will try to answer your questions as they come in, assuming we don't get inundated and we can't get to them all. But to April's question, what can we attribute to wind that isn't attributable to flood? Because most of the people don't have flood coverage. Well, most of the policies when it comes to wind damages or water intrusion from wind damages, they require some kind of a storm created opening, but not every policy requires a permanent storm created opening. And that is a very important word to establish. So a storm created opening is an opening where the storm has opened some part of the house up, allowed water to intrude. That opening can be temporary and it can come back. Flashings don't allow water into a house during a normal storm because flashings allow water to shed off the roof. But what if you have water that's going uphill? That's wind-driven rain. That can get into any kind of an opening that's there, and it's not an opening normally because it sheds water, but during a storm, it's an opening because it's going uphill. So there were vents on this tile roof that allowed a lot of water in. All the pipe boots had failed at some point that allowed a lot of water in. It's because the wind was pushing its way into crevices and gaps that it normally would never have an issue with. That is a storm created opening. Sometimes windows can push in, allow water through the seals, and then come back. Push in and come back, push in and come back. There is a lot of pressure causing a lot of buffeting on a lot of surfaces, and it can create temporary openings that disappear afterwards. Now, you can identify that the pressure was in excess of the what the material is supposed to withstand. You can show that with some fenestration experts that put these awesome machines on top of windows to show that water can get through those gaps or that the window has failed. But you don't necessarily have to go that far either. You can just see that there's cracks in the seals, and that is a storm created opening. Even though you can't visibly see a hole in it, you can physically see a crack in a lot of the caulking and things. But vents and flashings, they're designed to shed water. So any water that's going uphill getting underneath it is an opening that normally is not an opening. even though it's still somewhat open, technically, it's not really an opening because it's shedding water. It's an opening if there's a storm. So it's created by the storm, the fact that it's an opening. It's a storm-created opening. You can have water come in. That's wind-driven rain. Wind-driven rain, when a lot of policies does have a limitation in Florida. So if you do have a copy of the policy, you want to take a look to see if there is some kind of a wind-driven rain exclusion or possibly a wind-driven rain limitation. A lot of the commercial policies have like a $10,000 to $100,000 limit on wind-driven rain. You need to be careful of. The homeowners policies generally don't have a lot of exclusions on wind-driven rain, but they will have a storm-created opening requirement. And I believe that that is an opening. If the flashing has failed because of wind and water is getting through, that is a storm-created opening.
Yeah, and you guys would be surprised. I mean, we'll make sure that we post some pictures later. But there was quite a bit of rain that and water that actually got inside, and so much, and there was like no visible damage to this house, and the ceiling on the inside actually collapsed. And if you're looking at the roof and the slope where it happened, it has like this big vent that's probably about 3 feet, right? And it goes up so that you can't really get, it has that little lip on there. But there was so much water that got in there that it created, moisture throughout that whole little area. I mean, we had to crawl through like these little tiny spots in the very beginning to actually get through there. I still can't believe that I actually made it through.
Oh man,
that was part of the fun, but
through that thing. Is
Yeah.
that the right term? It was more like spelunking in an attic.
right.
You even had a headlamp on.
I did. And you see all this like different water damage, and on the fiberglass as well, that's in the attic. They had mold on there. Right. And that's why, I posted just recently, like, hey, make sure that you guys are getting up in the attic if you're in any portion of where the path of the hurricane came. Because if that mold is in there, then eventually it's going to get down, and then you're going to start breathing it into your lungs as well. So making sure that you guys are protected, your homeowners are protected as well. That's going to be one of the big major things that really helps you guys out down the line.
Mold in an attic isn't as bad to find either. Mold is excluded in a lot of policies these days. They might have fungi endorsements that remove fungi coverages or a short limitation on it. But mold that you find in an attic often is attributed to seepage, and the seepage exclusion often has a hidden damage clause or something that says that if it was hidden behind ceiling walls or floors and unknown to the insured at the time of loss, then it would still be covered. The mold or the water damage caused by seepage that's otherwise excluded. And then you can have ensuing loss provisions tied to a lot of things that could still provide coverage for the wind-driven rain and rain that enters in some fashion. You're talking about a lot of pressure that is put on a structure. A lot of these insurance companies, they want to treat these policies as if they're only catastrophe policies. They're only going to pay for something if it's catastrophically damaged. That's what happened. And they're still giving some issues on a lot of this stuff. And it's because of language like the storm-created opening. No one's really defined that very well, but I can tell you, if water is going uphill and it's finding its way in, that is a storm-created opening. It's not normally an opening.
Right. Yeah, and you got to remember, I mean, these trusses and everything else that are like underneath there. I mean, they started like rotting out, and you had your decking and everything else that you actually have to pull off to have it replaced. So and that's one of the big things that a lot of these people don't necessarily understand when you are dealing with something like this, is just because the fact that you have all this unseen damage, and maybe there's people that don't want to necessarily crawl up into the attic to find out exactly what's happening up there, what's going on. And trust me, I've been in so many attics in my life, and it's not any fun. You never want to crawl, especially in Florida. Like Florida in a hot day. I mean, it's just like Arizona as well. I mean, I remember crawling up in this little attic that was like 3 feet, and I was like trying to crawl through because I had to check some electrical.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh. So
that'll kill you.
Yeah, I got out and I was like sweating, So
I passed out in an attic once and woke up outside on the ground.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I don't know how I got there.
Wow.
My head hurt.
I'm sure it did. You probably
landed on it.
Probably got a little bit of heat exhaustion.
I definitely did. I realized after the fact how stupid that was.
Right. And it's just the structural damage, you guys, because you got to remember that, water causes rotting. So that wood underneath there, I mean, and that causes like structural, what's the word I'm looking for? Like structural damage that might.
It can't hold the load anymore. It becomes a collapse possibility. So, building officials will get very excited about anything that could be a safety concern. Right. Anything that could emit water is a safety concern according to the International Property Maintenance Code, the IPMC. And anything that could emit water has to be fixed immediately. So we've got these vents and they're currently shedding water normally. And then this wind event comes in and shoves water into this opening that it's always there. It's not really an opening, it's a vent. But when water is pushed up through it, it's suddenly an opening that water can get admitted to. I believe that's a storm-created opening. The flashing can lift up slightly, and engineers will say that that's improper installation or a failure of the flashing. No, it's fucking wind damage, all right? Wind lifted that. It wasn't supposed to lift like that. It has lifted like that. It's a storm-created opening. There's all kinds of ways that water can find its way in, but Josh is right here. If you get in the attics and you look up, if you don't have any damage on the roof or the adjuster is saying, we're not paying for the roof, we're going to pay for all the interior damages, get in the attic and look up. Look at the underside of the deck. Is it safe? Will it hold the weight? Are there stamps that say that it's even rated for roof sheathing? You don't know. It's required to have that by code, by the way. If it doesn't have any stamps on it, you don't know if it can hold the weight that's there. Is there any water damage on it, on the sheathing? If there's water damage on the sheathing, find out where it's coming from. Chances are good it's a storm-created opening after a major event like that. If you can find that on the roof, so you might have to measure roughly where it's coming through the gap of some decking, measure up to the ridge, and then measure to an exterior wall, and then try to measure from the roof side that same area. You'll either find that there's a tile loose, if it's a tile roof, or that there's a crack or a corner. And if the corners are cracked where they overlap, they're always going to argue. They won't argue this for the first month to 2 months, but after that, they're going to say footfall damage. They will say that because they're taught to say that because it has to be footfall. That's where it normally breaks when there's footfall. That's where it normally breaks because it's the weak point. Anything could cause it to break there. It's the weak point. It doesn't have to be footfall damage. Stephen writes, contractors, when inspecting a roof, frequently put vents, etc., back on people's roofs as a courtesy. If they find them laying in the yard, be sure you know this happened or your entire interior claim could be denied for wind-driven rain. That's true. Now, look, in Florida, wind-driven rain is something that might be written out of your policies. A lot of times it isn't. Don't assume that it's written out. If they say it's wind-driven rain that's not covered, verify that's the case in the policy. To be honest, not that many policies actually exclude wind-driven rain. They might just put a limitation on it. But he's right. I often find that policyholders try to fix their property as quickly as they can. They want to get it back to normal. But if they don't take any photographs, or if the contractor that's doing this courtesy doesn't take any photographs and let someone know, then they could argue that it was not, or it was like that to begin with, and nobody would know any better.
Yeah, and I mean, photographs are huge, guys. Just for any homeowners that may be listening as well, as make sure that before a storm comes, that you take those photos, and that not only includes of your home, but that includes of your car as well. Because I can't even tell you how many cars were actually towed away today. This whole time it's just the insurance company is coming, they're taking away cars because they become complete losses because they were underwater for so long.
So Steven says many policies don't require storm created opening, but rather damage to the roof or wall where the water came in through the damaged area. So they claim even if a door blew open, it might not be damaged. I would argue, and this is a stupid argument, by the way, I'm warning you in advance, this is retarded what's about to come out of my mouth, but if wind pushed open the door and allowed water in, that's breaking and entering. I would say burglary all day. I'm just forceful entry. You know what I mean? It's just right. There's a code for that. The cops probably have. You weren't a cop, were you?
No. Breaking and entering.
I kind of wish I knew a cop right now that could tell me what the police code for that would be. We got a 1611 in progress, whatever it might be.
Right.
Look, damage. It depends on your definition of damage. A lot of times the engineer definition of damage might not apply. But if you're talking about the definition that's in most policies, which isn't one at all, then damage can mean a lot of things. Cosmetic damages and different things would still be covered by most policies. So what would uplift of flashing be considered? Is that damage? If it pulls a nail slightly looser, is that damage? I think it is. And flashing is often lifted up and left in a slightly raised position and allowing water intrusion in. A door that's thrown open to allow water in. Maybe the door wasn't damaged. Maybe. There's going to be something in those policies that's going to allow some kind of an opening, because honestly, they did not write this into the policy to exclude the kind of shit that's really happened here. They're trying to write stuff in the policy to exclude the frivolous claims that happen in between the meter storms. So there's bound to be something to work with in those. But you're right. You need to be careful with the policy language. Stephen isn't wrong here. Every policy is different, every single one of them. And there might be policies that are very, very strict on this. So you got to be careful. You can't make assumptions there's going to be coverage. Wind burglary. We should have like that McDonald's character that was like the robber. What was he called?
McBurglar or something like that?
McBurglar.
Yeah.
Was that really his name?
I think that was his name.
Sound right. Is that right?
Was it McBurglar, guys? I don't know.
Yeah, somebody's gonna have to let us know. There's Grimace, and then there's.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was McBurglar. But yeah, I mean, any bit of change to the housing. I mean, in my opinion, I mean that's something that changes the actual structure of the structure of the building. That could later on, if something happens even more so, that could damage it completely. So I mean, in my opinion, from contractor standpoint, is more or less like anything that takes away from the actual integrity of the structure. It needs to make sure that it's replaced and taken care of. So, yeah, Hamburglar. That's
you were way off.
I said McBurglar. That's pretty cool. So.
I knew it wasn't right. I could tell. I was thinking it was Hamburger the whole time. I didn't say it.
Right.
I had nothing.
Yeah.
All right. If you guys have any questions for us, we'd be happy to answer. We're both sitting here kind of wishing we had a chance to take a shower after that attic before sitting down to do this, and sitting so close to each other. I can feel the heat coming off.
Yeah, I know. I usually radiate it. So.
Yeah, you are a radiator.
But yeah, if you guys have questions or anything else like that, I mean, more than happy to help as well. Just
this guy will help you with anything. He's a gas fairy as well.
So
the gas fairy. Yeah. It sounds like you fart a lot.
Yeah, probably. And
like magical.
I'm probably gonna have to talk to my daughters.
You probably have like weird gaseous wings that you can see just kind of dissipating as they fly.
That's good, right?
Yeah, gas fairy.
Right.
Hey, this flood versus wind issue is a big problem for a lot of the people that are out there because they don't have the flood coverages. If you can't separate out flood water from wind, if there's overlap, you have to understand that they still owe for the wind damages. So even if there's overlap, you can't separate it fully. Whatever would be or could be attributable to wind would be covered. Anything that could be attributable to wind and flood could be covered. Anything that could be separated and is only flood would not be. That would fall under the NFIP program or the flood insurance if there is any. So finding out where those lines are is blurry. Understand that policies are written in such a way that the policyholders are supposed to be given the benefit of the doubt. So if it's a blurry line, you can't designate where that real distinction is, where the demarcation line would be. Try to get as close as you can, make it reasonable in good faith, and you should have all that you need. And if you're just waiting for the carrier to do a proper investigation, understand this, and I want everybody to pay attention to this statement. Insurance companies are required to investigate what is claimed. If you don't claim it, they don't have to investigate it. If they don't climb in the attic during their investigation, it's because you didn't claim anything in the attic.
Yeah, and you guys, there's a lot of people that are out there that they're thankful and everything else that there is no damage or anything else done. But like this roof today, I mean, it's you've got, and this is like homeowners as well. I mean, they need to get up, make sure that they check on everything, make sure that everything is done properly, or that there's no molding, there's no there's no leaks or anything else like that, because that could deal with the structural integrity of like the roof and everything else. And so but yeah, no, just real quick too, I want to talk about like how these people that are out there, and you're talking about the flood and the wind and everything else. I mean, there's an event this Saturday actually, where it's going to be out at Fort Myers. They're going to be holding like a little event where all charity, like all the donations and everything else actually go to the charity victims. So like all the people that were affected. So, if you guys have a chance, you guys are in the Fort Myers area, it's going to be a nice little event. And like I said, I mean, all proceeds go to all the different hurricane victims as well. And, just got to remember, I mean, some of these guys that lost everything, it's just now starting to like hit them now that, all their precious items that can't be replaced are gone. And so it's just, I just want to kind of throw that out there as well, is just because, that it's starting to sink into a lot of these different people. I mean, if you noticed, I don't know, have you talked to them, but it's like really starting to like just soak in, like, man, I just lost all this stuff, like, photos. I mean, you drive down streets and it's just, everything in their house is outside, right? And it's out to be thrown out. So, insurance a lot of times too, even with flood, it doesn't necessarily cover all those items, right? And, I know personally, like when I had my fire, I mean, like I didn't care about all the items. I just wanted all like my photos of like my girls and everything that I had lost, And so a lot of this stuff just, any way that you guys can help these people kind of like help rebuild and even if it's just positive thoughts and prayers, I mean, letters or anything, these people are going through a lot. I mean, Dorothy, the one person that we actually spoke and like rescued, I mean, she was running low on food and water, and just talked to her again today. And I'm going to go visit her tomorrow. We're going to have like a little barbecue. I'm taking her like a little barbecue because she lost hers. It's just, I'm going to put it together, but it's just those moments that I have been like completely lost. And, some of these older people that have moved down here, it's because they didn't want to live up in the snow anymore or up in the cold. And so, anything that you guys can do to possibly help, reach out to these people, even if it's just like a phone call sometimes, I'm sure that they're going to be appreciative. So that was just like one little plug real quick on that.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's this Saturday.
Yeah, this Saturday. It's like 6 to, I think it's from like 5 to 8 or 6 to 9 or something like that. I'll make sure I send it over to you.
Yeah, send it over to me. I don't know if I'll make it or not, but I got that class starting tomorrow. Stephen brings up a good point. He says, remember, under the property removal coverage, the contents are covered for any reason, including FUD. We're talking about removal of the contents in order to be able to restore the property. If the homeowner was attempting to remove their contents to do a peril insured against, if you damage your TV trying to move it, then the TV is covered. Even if you dropped it, it is literally the best coverage in the entire policy. There are a lot of times that the property coverages in a homeowner's policy falls under a named peril situation. But wind, storm, and hail is a named peril. And so anything that happens as a result of that, including you moving it to protect it, is part of that same named peril. It's all part of the same chain of events. They wouldn't have taken the TV down in this situation if not but for the hurricane that had occurred. So you're right. Now, this kind of ties into how tree coverages would also be applied. And this is a common misconception. We might as well get this out while all 8 people are watching this. This is a really low volume episode. I don't know what's going on. Everybody's working, I guess. With tree coverages, when the tree is on a structure, in order to repair the structure, part of the replacement cost value of that structure is to access it. And so the tree comes off, and the cost of removing the tree from the structure falls under the replacement cost value of the property, the structure that was damaged. And now the tree is debris. It's off of it. And there is debris removal coverages inside of policies to then take the debris and get it offsite. Now, if a heavy equipment were to come in, damaging all this shit to get to the structure in the tree, to remove the tree, make it debris that can be taken off, and then on its way back out, it damages all this shit on its way out, and it was unavoidable to damage all this shit, then all of the damage caused by that would also be covered under the replacement cost value of the structure, because it's part of the access costs associated with repairing this. So even the land that isn't normally covered by the policy. As long as that heavy equipment wasn't owned or operated by the policyholder, it's an non-owned. It's a vehicle that is not owned by a policyholder. It's being used by someone else. All of the damage to the yard that's unavoidable to get the tree off the structure would all fall under access to that structure, which all falls under its replacement cost value, which all falls under either coverage A or coverage B, depending on the structure. That's how that actually works. That debris removal, it doesn't count for the tree that's on the structure. It's only when the tree is off and sitting on the side of the road now. Now, a lot of times that money for debris removal, it's not really being utilized that way because they're putting it on the side of the road and the city's coming to pick it up.
Right.
But it still could be for moving the shit to the side of the road, I suppose.
Right.
Once it's off the structure, is it debris now or is it debris only when it hits the side of the road ready to go? I don't actually know the answer to that. I've had debates on this and I could argue it both ways at this point.
Interesting.
We actually have that debate in the Public Adjuster 102 Advanced Policy Interpretation class that's coming up in several weeks. I have to put a shameless plug in, guys. Tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we have Public Adjuster 101. If you guys are interested in finding out how to act as a public adjuster, Public Adjuster 101 is the next 3 days. On Monday, though, the one that I'm really excited about, dealing with engineers. It's a one-day class. If you guys at all ever deal with an engineer hired by the insurance carrier, you need to take this class. It really is. It's the best class I teach. It's a one-day class and it's online. You can zoom in. You don't have to travel anywhere, and it's next Monday. It's only $500, and it will teach you how to start playing chess, how to plan ahead for shit. It's a really, look, I'm biased as hell, but it's a really good class.
Yeah, and Matthew knows the stuff. I mean, that's one of the great things about this whole experience is I've been able to actually spend a lot more time with them as well. And just the knowledge and stuff that I picked up, I mean, it's amazing. And like any of my contractors that are on or that are listening, I highly suggest taking their class or at least having a few guys take their class because it's all the better that you guys know is going to help out your roofing company. And there's so many different things that you guys are missing out on that you may or may not even know about.
And after this event, we've decided to start taking some of these classes on the road. So if you're interested, you have a larger construction firm and you're interested in having us come out to teach privately roof inspection courses or something along those lines, we'd be happy to discuss those kind of options with you. Stephen brings up a good point. Don't forget that the excess over the $500 tree debris removal can be leveraged against the deductible. This is how deductibles work. People don't realize this. You have a $500 limit in coverage, right? For whatever, and you exceed that, it actually costs you $1,000 to remove that debris.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's $1,000, and you have $1,000 deductible and a $500 coverage. Well, $1,000 RCV for that minus $1,000 deductible brings you down to $0. But $500 of your deductible is now, well, actually your entire deductible is dealt with, but this is a terrible example. Let me do this better. If you're talking about dwelling coverage, because it wasn't enough money for me to really explain this the way that people actually understand it. Thank you for bringing this up, Stephen. If you have a $500,000 policy limit and there's a total loss scenario, let's use this example, it's easier. But it actually costs you $700,000 to replace your building, and you have a $10,000 deductible. $700,000 minus your deductible is $690,000. You still only have a $500,000 policy limit. That's all you're going to get. But the deductible was eaten away in the aggregate. So you don't have to pay your deductible on top of this. You're not going to get $490,000. You're going to get all $500,000 because your deductible came off the top. And that's basically what he's saying. So you can definitely leverage that against your deductible for sure.
No, it's that, a lot of people don't really understand like how insurance works or their insurance as well. And it's just, a lot of these courses and everything else. I mean, it's arranged to kind of like help out your clients as well. So I know that, after being able to spend a lot more time, I mean, I'm actually going to be looking at taking some of your courses as well. So
you should. Yeah, I'm going to start certifying Josh. I mean, he's certifiable as it is. So, I mean, it's a perfect situation, really.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, the gas ferry needs certification. Hey, so tell me a little bit about iRoofing. Actually, I I mentioned this at the beginning of this, but in case you guys aren't the same 8 people that have been watching since the beginning. Wow, we have so few people today. There is something cool about this program, iRoofing, that I didn't really understand how cool it is until I saw it in action today. One, iRoofing can replace company cam. If you guys are using company cam, there's not that many options out there. iRoofing has a similar program built in. It doesn't have some of the bells and whistles, but it has the meat of company cam in it. But also this coolest thing, and this is really important for public adjusters or insurance adjusters, you can take the satellite image that shows up and you can purchase with credits that you get every month, aerial imagery from the past so that you could go back in time with very clear aerial imagery and see any pre-existing condition. Shingles that are missing, you can figure out what year that actually took place. This is important because insurance adjusters are definitely using this kind of technology against you. And you can do a free one. You can go to Google Earth Pro and you can go back in time on Google Earth Pro, the desktop version. But usually it's very grainy. What you showed me, dude, was super clear because it's aircraft that are taking these images, which is why it costs a credit or two.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, we give you 150 credits, which, like I said, I mean, you get you like, 40 to 60 houses, depending on the size.
Yeah.
But, especially, I've been telling a lot of my public adjusters and attorneys and everything else that's out there right now is, about this feature. Not only that, but like the contractors as well. And, it's a great feature because then people are always trying to argue, the insurance is always trying to argue like pre-existing conditions. Right. So now you can actually go back in time and take a look at it. It's dated and everything else so that you can actually, like take that to court or actually establish that timeline. Yeah,
I mean, the time traveling roofer, which is Matt Danskin, really ought to be talking about this feature.
Right.
Is Matt Danskin watching by any chance? I don't think.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But
I'm not cool enough.
On our feature, like it's like company cam. I mean, company cam's an amazing product, and it's there's a lot of features and stuff that they have that we don't.
But got some bells and whistles, but the meat of what you need, which is the ability to put text and draw an arrow at shit in an image. Mm-hmm. Your software does that.
Yeah, and it has
inside the software,
and it has a timestamp too.
And the timestamp, that was important too. That's a good point.
Right. So.
So the things that I use the most in company cam is that, but then there's the other features like being able to share it to other company cam users to be able to see a photo file pretty easily. So if iRoofing doesn't do that, it totally needs to. For sure. Hint, hint, wink, wink.
Yeah, I mean we're still working on a lot of different developments and stuff like that. So the integration pieces and stuff, but yeah, I mean you can
inside the same software create a project, get the roof measurements, be able to build an estimate. Get the timestamp photos in there with arrows and captions built into the photograph and be able to go back in time to verify that this is new damages all in one system.
Yeah.
It's fucking cool.
Yeah. So, and you can do it for every neighbor too. So that's what, I tell people all the time is like, look, you can go out there and like, if you're talking to the neighbor, you put everything all together in one. You have it all done right there on the spot. You don't have to sit around and wait for it. It's just like those, remember those sales guys that we saw at like, what was it, Publix? And they're just,
just standing.
They're just standing out there.
Just standing.
And we were there for probably like an hour and a half or so. And actually,
I we were there that long. We were at Publix for an hour and a half.
Well, when we pulled up, I mean, we went outside and then we ate.
And we did eat in the
park. Yeah, we joked around and stuff.
That's true. Okay.
But they were still in there.
That's true.
So, and it's
just hanging out, waiting for leads.
Yeah, that's so funny. That was the funniest part is when they were complaining about leads in the hurricane, and I was just like, wow.
There's so much damage outside. There's damage in the building you're standing in. Are you talking to anybody? You handing out cards? At least nothing. You're just shooting the shit, acting like, wow, I'm here. I'm doing it. You're not doing shit.
Yeah, and there was was there 2 or 3 companies? I can't remember. Because they all had different shirts on. I got to go back and look at the picture.
Dude, really?
Because Matthew actually is so funny because he's like, hey, I'm gonna go like put myself in the background and then we can do like a Where's Matthew, almost like the Where's Waldo. So I have a picture of Matthew standing behind, like these group of salespeople, back in the background, and it's so funny because
really just making fun of these guys.
Yeah, but no, I mean it's just a matter of education, teaching people different things because if if you're constantly just spoon fed stuff, I mean, you don't think about, like when I was out in South Dakota, for example, I mean, I came down to a street, it was a cul-de-sac, it had 6 houses on it, right? So all of them had damage. 5 of them were all different roofing companies, right? And then 3 of them had different distributors, right? And then 4 of them had different manufacturers. Wow. So between the roofer, the distributor, the manufacturer, maybe even the public adjuster, just think about how much money one company actually lost out on that.
Just because they weren't willing to try to get referrals or to just talk to the neighbors a little bit.
Correct.
Yeah. I think that there are so many different tarping products that can put your logo on. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen any of that around here.
Yeah, actually,
that's really missing.
Yeah, one of my TikToks actually, I posted like got tarps because when I first, I don't know if you guys, if you know Derek, don't you? Derek over at KP.
Kenner Pennsylvania.
Yeah. So, we I went and he's been great. He's been with me pretty much after, we were together and they're like bringing up supplies and they're setting up locations, partnered with the police, which was really cool. But we got all these tarps, right? And so I roll into town with, I think I had, what was it? I had 27 boxes of tarps. So all had 3 of them in there. Mm-hmm. And so I rode around and I see like all these roofing companies are like passing by, because they're like, see that they're like tarps. But yeah, I mean, it was like one of my friends at Cam's buddy Aldo, he's like, you might want to put like a tarp over those tarps because people are like going to be looking. And, we were standing, I was like, sleeping in the trailer and stuff. And like, he's like, just be careful. It's like hurricane. And I was like, oh man, I'm not so worried. But it was funny how many people actually drove by like all slow and like watching what I'm doing. But
yeah.
I mean, but like the tarps for sure. I mean, they need.
I mean, it's advertising and it's going to be there. No one can steal that yard sign,
right?
If they did, that would be vandalism.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy.
A lot worse.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. I think we'll close this up. We've lost all interest.
Now,
thank you for hanging in there with us, April. I appreciate it and laughing at our jokes even.
Yeah,
my favorite is.
Yeah, I know this was last minute and stuff, so I do appreciate you having me on there.
Last minute. I literally have this show every week.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I know you.
I think people just don't care anymore.
I'm sure
maybe they just didn't like you.
I'm sure. I mean,
maybe if you were wearing a better hat.
You don't like this hat? I did get a nice new haircut.
I like that company. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I was just trying to say that there's a better hat.
Oh, gotcha.
There's the hat.
Right.
But then you wouldn't be mad at that.
Well, and and I know that some of the people over at like Austin, he was trying to like join on us as well. So like next time, and that's why I was trying to get him to join over here because I can't really see like all over there the comments and stuff. So I apologize, you guys, but yeah, looking forward to meeting all you guys here. I hope you guys are going to RoofCon because it's going to be amazing.
Yep. And do me a favor and tell your friends about Dealing with Engineers. That is a class that people really need to start taking because honestly, if we can just fix the bullshit that's going on with the hiring of insurance company engineers, we can literally improve the industry dramatically by getting rid of all the crap that's going on there. So take that class. It's only $500. Totally worth it. It really ought to be $3,000. All right. We'll see you guys next Tuesday at 6 p.m.
Absolutely.
Or Monday at 10 a.m. because you buy the Dealing with Engineers class that you should totally do.
Oh, and just wait for the drone footage from Matthew. I actually up on the Tesla. That was actually pretty cool.
Yeah, my ass is in this shot. Really nice.
Nice. Awesome.